Um, Herodotus has described, or in his book Histories, he describes Darius as a worker, and then he describes his son Xerxes as a warrior, and then Xerxes' son Artaxerxes as great warrior. So there are incidences in the book that illustrate the shrewdness of Xerxes as a war leader. And in this video, I'm going to tell you of two of those. So, as Xerxes was marching towards Europe, towards Greece, he had to camp at Sardis for a moment. And while he was at Sardis, there are two things that happened, and his generals were making decisions that he was disapproving, and they could not understand why he was doing that because it was obvious what was supposed to happen, and he was asking them to do the opposite. So one of these was when the Greeks knew that Persians were coming, they started preparing for the war. And one of the ways they did that was to end their own internal conflicts. It was very common for the Greek city-states to be fighting one another. So they had to stop that, and they had to form an alliance so that they can face the Persians as a single unit. So as they were doing this, they were also gathering information about the Persians, of course, trying to understand the enemy well so that they can prepare appropriately. And one way they did this, they sent spies. And three, I think it was Spartans, were picked, and they were asked to go to Sardis and to spy, to find out everything they could about the Persians, their army, how big it was, how prepared it was, the weapons it had, and things like that. It's something that happens even today. Nations spy on others. So these three guys go to Sardis, and they are walking around trying to learn as much as they could about the Persians and their army and their king Xerxes. And as they are moving around, they are noticed. The Persian soldiers notice them, and they are arrested. Then they are taken before the generals, who decide that, yeah, these are spies, and they are here to collect information about us and take it to our enemies, and that is going to affect how we're going to fight, or it's going to alert our enemies about our strengths and our weaknesses, and we don't want that to happen. Of course, even today, if one nation sends spies to another and the spies are arrested, often they are jailed, and in fact, in some countries, they are killed. They are sentenced to death. That has happened a lot, even during the Second World War, and even very recently, it's been happening. So that was like a no-brainer. These are spies. We've caught them. What has to happen to them? We need to get rid of them. So that they are not living here to go and share our secrets with our enemies. Now, the generals had made that decision. It wasn't, the way Herodotus explains it, it wasn't necessary that Xerxes gets to know about it and gets to make a decision on that. To the generals, it was so obvious what they needed to do. But this information gets to Xerxes. Xerxes is informed that there are three spies that have been caught in the city, and they are being taken to be killed. And Xerxes sends a message immediately, and he tells the messenger, go and tell the generals that if they've not already killed these guys, they shouldn't do that. They should bring them to me. And the generals get this message, and they take these three guys to Xerxes, and Xerxes tells the generals, I don't want you to kill these guys. What I want you to do is to take them around the camp. Show them everything. Show them everything we have. Let them understand how vast my army is. Let them know everything they want to know, and then let them go. And that's what was done. These guys were taken around the camp. They were shown everything, and then they were let go. They went back to Greece. And the generals were confused. Why did Xerxes decide to do that? It was so obvious that these were spies, and what happens to spies. And this is what he told them. He told them, Had the spies been put to death, the Greeks would have continued ignorant of the vastness of my army, which surpassed the common report of it, which surpasses the common report of it. While I would have done them a very small injury by killing the three of their men. On the other hand, by the return of the spies to Greece, my power will become known, and the Greeks will make surrender of their freedom before I begin my march, by which means my troops will be saved all the trouble of an expedition. So Xerxes' thinking was, he was so confident of how big the army was. He knew that the vastness of his army was in itself intimidating. I've told you that the numbers Herodotus gives us is that he had about 1.7 million men. And so that was a huge army, and he knew that the vastness itself was intimidating, and letting these spies go was better than killing them, because letting them go was letting the Greeks know that the army that was coming for them was huge. It was significantly huge, and they would rather surrender than face it. So that was his logic. Whether it worked or not is a different story. Now, the second incident, which is almost similar, is as they were in Sardis, they were near what Herodotus calls the Hellespont, or this water body that divides Europe from Asia. And ships were going through the channel as they were camped there. Ships were going through the channel, and some of the generals asked, "Oh, whose ships are these?" And they were informed that these are ships of Greeks, that they are carrying corn to Greek city-states. Herodotus doesn't tell us where the corn was coming from, but it must have been coming from some other parts of Europe. And this corn, we call it here maize, it was being transported to Greek city-states, Sparta, Athens, and all these other Greek city-states. And the generals were like, this is an opportunity for us to sabotage the Greeks. We can capture these ships and make sure that they don't get a supply of corn, and that will weaken them. And they told Xerxes about this, and Xerxes was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. So he stopped them from capturing the ships that were carrying corn to Greek city-states. I told them, don't do that, just let the ships be moving as they've always done. And this is what he told them as the reason for that. He told them, we too are bound there, laden among other things with corn. What harm is it if they carry our provisions for us? Like, the ships are going to Greece, we are going to Greece. We are carrying corn ourselves because we need it for food. So what is the problem if they carry the corn for us? Like, whatever corn they are carrying to Greece, we are going to eat it when we reach there. Yeah, so those are some of the incidences that show that Xerxes was a shrewd war leader, and Herodotus describing him as a warrior and not a worker as his father. That this is one of those things. These are some of those things that maybe made him to describe him. So it seems like he was very good at war strategy and planning. About Artaxerxes' son, we will not know because it's not part of histories.